good. So good. I need you to acknowledge my knitting mug. I got it as a gift and I love it so much. And it actually holds a knitter's worth of coffee. Oh, it's so good. Nice and warm. So hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria, otherwise known as Lone Wolf Knits here online. And this is my little making podcast here where I talk about things that I've been making. This week, very typical episode, I have some finished objects, and then I thought it would be fun to do a little bit of a WIP parade, as they're calling it these days, which is basically where I show you a lot of the WIPs that I have been working on. Not all of them, because we are still in a phase where we have quite a few WIPs. We're joined in the back there by Wiley. He's gonna chill for a little bit, seems like. Maybe he's a little itchy from his walk. And yeah, I hope you have something warm to sip on and something to work on while we chat. I also just wanted to thank you for hanging out with me today. We are experiencing a kind of ish spring day here in Washington State. So it's kind of gloomy, but the cherry trees were out this morning when I went on my walk. I might even still have some in my still kind of wet hair here, but we're going with it because this is the only chance that I have to record right now. Life has been full, very full. Oh, we lost Wiley. So let's get down to business. I would love to talk to you about what I'm wearing. This I don't think I've talked about on the channel, at least for quite some time. This is the Flower Child Tee by Wool and Pine Designs. I knit this out of Yarn Nouveau. Here is a little teeny bit of what is left. I also had a full skein, well, not full skein, but almost full skein left. I think I ordered 3 skeins. So it really doesn't take a lot of yarn because obviously no sleeves. I have made this sweater before, and that's probably where you heard me talk about it in the past. I made a sample of this for Wool and Pine Designs in a larger size. It was like a muted pink color, and I loved it so much that I decided to, I needed to make myself one, so I bought some yarn and made it myself. Actually, my friend Selena bought me this yarn, so I'm very grateful for her supporting my need to have all of the knitted things. And so this is a top-down yoke sweater. It is, I think it came out last year in 2025, and this is one of my WIPs that is from 2025 or earlier. I believe I started this in August of 2025, and I have made this pattern before, as I said, but for some reason I was like stuck right before the bobbles here. I just needed to look up a 5-minute video on how to remember how to do the crochet bobbles, and that took me a couple months, unfortunately, for a 5-minute video, because sometimes my brain is just the worst. So yeah, it took me quite a bit of time to do these, 6 or 7 rows here. And then, you basically just divide for sleeves at that point, and you knit the body. The body is straight. I'll throw in some b-roll footage. You can see the whole sweater, more than just me sitting here talking about it. But it is just stockinette throughout the body. So once you finish this beautiful yoke centerpiece, which very much is like a flower, like each little repeat of the yoke is just very organic and beautiful and flowy. The increases are really not visible. I know some yoke sweaters, for me, it just feels like the increases are super visible and super distracting to the yoke design, but this is integrated so well, and it's such a beautiful top. I mean, I could have added sleeves if I wanted more of a winter vibe to this, but I kept it as a tee because we're in spring. I need some more cute tees that I can just throw on, but also feel like still put together. I love this like very spring color. I believe it's called Sea Glass. And it is, it's probably coming across on screen a little bit more green than it is in person. It's a little bit more of like a green blue, very typical sea glass color. But it's beautiful. I love it so much. I am so excited to finally have it finished. And I was saying after finishing with the body, there's a little bit of twisted rib and then a tubular bind off. So I did a tubular bind off for the hem and the shoulders as well. They are also done in a little bit of twisted rib. By shoulders, I mean sleeves. Once you do divide for the sleeves, you can knit the body or you can do the sleeves if you want, but for the sleeves for this, it's super easy. So when I was finally done with the body, which only took a few days after I had finished the yoke detailing, I just went back and I quickly did both of the sleeves in one night. So this was super quick to finish, and it probably would have taken really no time at all if I had just had the headspace to pay attention to the pattern and do a little bit of chart work for the yoke. It is so worth it. I know that I talk a lot on here about how I like very therapeutic, you know, plain Jane kind of stockinette stuff. And of course there is a time and place for all of that. And that is what I enjoy doing, but I also really love when I finish something that did present a little bit of a challenge to me, or like required me to pay attention a little more than just straight stockinette. So yeah, I always love when I complete these projects, and go me for finishing another WIP from 2025 or older. If you haven't joined the last couple episodes, you may not know, but I have been trying to finish all of my WIPs this year that have been from 2025 or older. At the beginning of the year, that looked like, I think, 26 or 27 projects that I was committed to working on and not frogging. There was more, and I did frog a ton of stuff. And I'm probably still missing a few projects here and there that I haven't added to Ravelry. But for the most part, they are accounted for, and I have a giant bag of bags off screen here of active WIPs that I've been working on towards that goal of finishing, you know, older WIPs. But my progress for the year, I tried to divide up the number of WIPs that I wanted to finish while trying to still leave some space for new casts-ons, because I do have a squirrel brain and I do want to knit all the things that are relevant and that inspire me and that are calling to me in the moment. And I want to be spontaneous enough to be able to cast those things on while also keeping in mind my goal to finish all of my WIPs. So my deal with myself is that I must finish 2 WIPs per month of the older than, you know, 2025 or older WIPs. And once I do that, I do have the freedom to cast on whatever I would like. And for January, February, and the beginning of March, let's say I kind of crushed it. I believe, let me just look at my notes here so I'm not lying to you, but in January I finished 3 things. In February I finished 3 things. And March, well, we're still in March, so there's still time, but I have finished 2 things so far, including this top. So last week I showed you my crochet Christmas blanket that's hanging out back there. That was the other thing that I finished this month. And so I was free to cast on some new things. So of course I did. I cast on 3 new things, but 2 of them are socks. And socks, as you may know from joining me here, I can crush some socks. So I have no doubt that I will finish these before the month is up. And they were just well, let's talk about them. So I have a little bit of a WIP avalanche situation over here. Tread carefully. All right, so I'm going to talk in order of the things that I cast on first, and it's also the most exciting. So my first new cast on of 2026 was the Hyacinth socks right here, and these obviously have such a gorgeous little pattern. It is not technically color work because you're only working one color at a time, but it's a combination of like some slip stitches that you can do to make this cute, fun little motif. I'll show it this way, like, because that's the way you would wear it on a sock. To me, I totally fell in love with this. It was marketed with like a sock set that I think Moonglow Yarn was releasing, and I love her yarn. No shade to her or her yarn, but I can't buy any more yarn right now. And I was like, you know what? This would actually be super perfect for scraps. And you know me, I am always trying to use my scraps as much as I can. And so I dug out some of the colors that I was feeling right now. It's actually very close to a crochet blanket that I'm going to show you in a minute. So just keep that in mind. But I've really been feeling these like orangey pinks, peaches, reds. So here's another close-up. It's a really fun pattern. It is super easy to memorize, at least for me. After the first couple repeats, I was like, okay, I got this. I only really need to pay attention on like 1 or 2 rows to make sure that I have the right stitch count. But for the most part, because you're working, you know, the same pattern all the way down, as long as everything is lining up as you're doing it, it's pretty easy to know where you are in the pattern. I am using an undyed yarn for the base. So here's the thing about scrappy projects. Sometimes you need non-scrappy yarn to hold it all together and make it feel united. And I can say from experience that I just never really accounted for things like that. So I have a ton of undyed yarn as an amateur dyer, someone that loves doing experiments with dye, especially I have a ton of acid dyes, but I also am really interested in natural dyes as well. So I happen to have a lot of undyed, you know, white yarn hanging around, and I have found that that is so useful for so many different things. Even if you never intend to dye it, if you just need a creamy, not quite white base, it's just perfect for that. So I do highly suggest, if you are someone who likes to do scrappy projects, or even someone who has a lot of hand spun, because I also end up using undyed yarn with hand spun to offset it. I just find that undyed yarn has really come in handy so much more than I ever thought as a knitter. So I would say I actually use more of the undyed yarn than I have used of my hand dyed yarn, of like, you know, stuff that I've dyed myself. Even though the stuff that I have dyed myself is beautiful and I love using that, I just tend to use up most of my undyed yarn in other projects. So it's funny that I bought this thinking I would dye all this yarn immediately, and for the most part that hasn't been the case. I've been trying to save it for when I want to dye like a sweater's quantity of something and I have a really specific vision. So I, contrary to my belief, I didn't automatically dye up all that yarn in the beginning, and I have been steadily using it in projects like these where you're trying to do something with scrappy yarn, but you need like a contrasting, super boring base. Not that this is like boring, but you know, next to all the colors, of course, it's understated. So these are the Hyacinth socks, and my plan is to just continue to do more of, you know, the pattern is the same all the way down through the foot. And I have tons and tons of colors here. I'll just show a few of where I'm planning to add. And like maybe some of these kinds of colors and more like orange. And I'm just going to continue that all the way through the sock. But of course, I do have plans for another pair because they're so potato chippy that I am definitely going to want to make another pair. And for that, I'm going to use blue, like light blues, dark blues, you know, blue-green-ish family. And so my idea is that you can, of course, wear the matching sock to this, and I will continue the right striping pattern all the way down in the second sock. But my idea is also that, like, you could mix and match these, like, totally. Like, who cares, you know? Or at least I don't care. I love a crazy sock moment. So I was thinking, like, one orange sock and one blue sock would actually be really cute to wear together because they're, like, kind of complementary colors. Well, they are complementary colors. And I just like the contrast of those two together. So was very happy with this little pattern here. Super genius. I love that it kind of looks like bunting. Or like cake decorations. So that also added to my decision to keep the white background, just like the sample pattern shows off. It reminds me of cake. I don't know, maybe I'm just a fat kid, but I love it so much. And it feels like cake decorating to knit this pattern. So cute, fun little pattern, very springy. And it would work great for a sock set as well, or like some sort of fade if you had those. But again, I'm just trying to use up some sock yarn, and maybe I will go back and look at some of I definitely have stash sock set fades and little minis that would be great for this project. But yeah, so trying to use up some scraps and yeah, very happy with that, how that pattern is going. What should we talk about next? I also cast on a pair of DRK Everyday socks. This is a comfort knit for me for sure. I am probably in the 80 to 90 pair mark for the number of DRK Everyday socks that I have made thus far in my life. I know that is a crazy, insane amount of DRK Everyday socks, but here's the thing. I memorized my pattern, like my size for these socks, and they're just so easy for me to cast on. I like a toe-up sock. I like getting all that toe work out of the way and not having a seam at the very tip of my toe. And I enjoy a toe-up sock. I enjoy a cuff-down sock too, but I have definitely made, just in this pattern alone, far more toe-up socks than cuff-down. And I know that that's probably like a hot take for the internet because most people apparently really like cuff-down. Try the DRK Everyday socks, okay? And a couple of mods that I always do, you know, they kind of look funny right now because they're unblocked and it looks like such a small tiny sock, but that is one of the beauty, one of the differentiating things for this pattern specifically that I love, which is that the sorry, I think there's one at our door, so I love this sock pattern because it is so stretchy and it really does hug your entire foot all the way up. The fit is so nice. I'm actually wearing a pair right now, also in cotton. So I should maybe talk about the yarn for a second. This is a cotton yarn from Japan, I believe, and it is really pretty. I ordered it on Amazon in 2025. It doesn't really have a brand or a label. Obviously, I'm not Japanese, so I cannot read most of what's on this label, but it's sock yarn. All this to say that, like, cotton yarn season is upon us, and these are great for spring. I love them. And I love knitting with cotton. I'm not one of those people that like really feels like cotton is worse for their hands. My hands at least tend to tolerate really well, but I also put my hands through the ringer with gardening every year, so maybe they're just kind of tough and used to it. But anyway, very few sock patterns actually hold up, like hand knit sock patterns, for me at least, with a cotton yarn, because you are really testing that yarn's ability to stretch out and tendency to stretch out, because it's cotton and cotton tends to grow. So I do love a cotton sock yarn though, especially for summer, especially for hiking, especially for yoga, hot yoga, like things like that where I'm like sweating a lot or there's a lot of friction on the yarn, where I don't want wool to then pill or you know, break down a lot faster than a cotton would. So I am always on the hunt for new cotton yarns, and I unfortunately could no longer find this online. It's like out of stock and they're not sure if they're going to put it back in stock or not. I hope they do, because I think there's a greenish color for this, and it I really like this yarn. I like the subtle striping. I mean, not really that subtle, it's pretty stripy, but it's not like, you know, each stripe is even. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So back to some mods that I do for the DRK Everyday Sock pattern. I just do a knit one front back for all of the increases along the toes. I don't care to make one left, make one right, which I think is what the pattern calls for. It's just too close to the edges and it's kind of finicky. So I just do make one left, right, or knit front back is what I think I meant, but in my mind I make one left, right. So knit front back for the increases on the toes. And I actually really like how that turns out. Sorry for my nails, by the way. We are in the aforementioned gardening phase of life right now, so my nails are a little worse for wear. But anyway, I do knit front back for the increases on the toe. I knit it to pattern all the way up the rest of the way, and then I knit 17 ribbing rows at the top here for the cuff, and that is my perfect shorty length, where it's not going to slip off the bottom of my foot, and it does peek out from my shoe a little bit, but it's not too long. I always make the adult small, like women's small size. I have like a 6.5 size foot, so that's that. They do go pretty quickly, and that's also why I really love them. I made this sock in like 2 days, and I have already started the other ones. As you can see, like there's my little knit front backs there, and it does create a nice little edge along the side, a little, you know, seam-ish, but there's nothing poking. It doesn't bother me. You also do a Turkish cast on for the toe, so as you can see, there isn't any like Kitchener stitch that you have to do at the end. I don't really mind a Kitchener stitch, but I just like not having a seam at all on the tip of my toe. So those are the DRK Everyday Socks. I will probably finish those and block those before the weekend is up, maybe. We'll see. It's almost noon on Sunday here, but there's still time. The day is still young. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the Cloudbreak Tee from Wool and Pine Designs, and right now I started this 2 days ago as well. It doesn't look like much, but it is called the Cloudbreak Tee. It just came out, this pattern just came out, and it's very summery and fresh, and it features contiguous sleeves, which is a very interesting construction for me, having just come off of the Flower Child tee, because it has the contiguous construction, and hopefully I'm saying that right, which basically means, so normally in a top down sweater you are doing short rows to shape the top and then increases throughout the yoke, or if you're doing a raglan, you're increasing at specific points to make that like raglan shape line underneath, you know, from your shoulders down to your armpits, and that is what makes the top shaping of the sweater. Obviously there's like a million and one ways to make a sweater, but contiguous, as far as I know, you don't really do short rows because the shaping that you're doing with increases across everything at the same time evens everything out so that you don't have to do short rows. At least that's what I have noticed so far from working this pattern. So I'm kind of like in an awkward spot here in the front where my beginning of round marker is, but you can kind of see the shoulders especially, like there's some very unique shaping going on here. And also, as you can probably tell, this is a cotton yarn, so it kind of has like a little bit of a, I would say like beachy feel to it, which I am totally here for. I am definitely planning on using this as more of like a super summery top. So it does have like more of an open gauge, and it uses DK weight yarn, which I have the, I'm looking for the little label because I don't remember what, it's a very common brand, but I can't remember. Barocco Modern Cotton DK, which I don't even know if this still exists anymore. I think it might be discontinued. I've had it for so long, I don't even remember where I got it from. But it is 60% Pima cotton and 40% modal rayon viscose. So it feels nice in the hands and it has a really nice drape. But my swatch did still grow a little bit. So I'm making the size 4 in this top, and it, for the amount of ease that's recommended, I think it's like 2 to 6 inches. And so the size 4 would give me 2 inches of ease, but I'm expecting a little bit more with my swatch growth. Before I blocked it, I was perfectly on gauge, and after it was just slightly off. But again, like with this yarn specifically, it's very hard to tell like what truly is going to be your gauge. I've definitely been fooled by cotton blends before because cotton is a little heavier than wool sometimes. So even if you make a big enough swatch to be able to know, okay, this is my true gauge, when you knit the actual sweater and the full weight of that sweater is on all of those stitches, cotton will do cotton's thing, which is kind of stretch a little bit. And it doesn't have the elasticity of wool to kind of like bring it back, but I'm hopeful that this blend, I think I've worked with this yarn before, or at least something very similar to it, that rayon might help it a little bit to keep its shape and prevent like overstretching. But all that to say that like cotton yarns and gauge swatches I find can be very deceiving. So I am accounting for that by making a slightly smaller size, especially because the recommended ease would be over in the next size up, and cotton tends to grow and stretch out over time. So I'm hoping with that little magic in there that I will actually get to more of like a 4-inch positive ease range for my bust size. So we shall see. But back to the contiguous shaping, there are no short rows, at least so far in the pattern, and I don't think that I saw them as I was reading the rest of the pattern at all. So no short rows. If you're a short row hater, this would be a great pattern for you. And a super cute little top. I really like, it's kind of like a square neckline, but I'm really loving it so far. And this was just 2 days worth of work. It's really easy to fly through those increase rows because you're just, you know, make one left, make one right. And I know I just talked about how I hate doing that in socks, but for a sweater at this higher gauge, not really a big deal. So I'm really enjoying it, and I can't wait to have another spring summer top. And bonus, I'm using stash yarn. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm also on a bit of like a yarn buying, not ban, but just being really intentional about if I do bring new yarn into my house, I want to have a plan for it. So I already have so many plans, and you can even see this big thing that I just put back here full of all of the yarns that I want to use this year. So I'm feeling really satisfied with the amount of yarn that I have and the yarn that I have left to use. I also have bins stacked underneath my desk of like sweater quantities worth of different yarns that I know that I just want to be able to have those ready to go to cast on something. Either I have something in mind for it, or I've put it aside as a sweater quantity of something so that when the project comes along that I do really want to make, it's right there. But for the most part, I'm still trying to catch up with things that I put on my list to make but never either ordered the yarn for, and it was in a different spot than where I was at the time. I did a lot of traveling over the past couple years, or for whatever reason I just didn't get around to knitting that project in the moment, but it's still very much in my queue. So juxtaposing that with some new things that have come into the mix as well. So obviously I've been really into crochet and crocheting all my scrappy stuff and blankets and all of that. Besides that, I am also of course drawn to the heat of the moment stuff that's been going on in the knitting world. So I think my next cast on, because it's just like burning in my brain that I'm like, I need to cast on one for the spring, is some sort of small little scarfy thing. Not a Sophie scarf. I don't think that I want something that simple, but maybe one of those like Italian summery scarves that have been going around as like other alternatives, but still a, you know, tiny scarf trend thing. I don't want like flight attendant size, but I am interested in those things for two reasons. Number one, I think I want like a small little summery scarf to throw on to be hip and fashionable, and also because I've never tried that before. I've always been like a big bulky hand knit winter accessory kind of person, and I want to explore what that means for summer me, especially because I do have plenty of more summery based yarns. So that is in my burning queue, I would say right now, of things that I want to cast on next. But let's get back to some things that I have been actively working on as WIPs. There's really just two more things, and then I'll let you go. So the first thing is a WIP from 2025 or earlier. I believe I started this in 2025, but I would have to look back on my Ravelry. Not that it really matters. The point is, it's been a WIP for a while and I'm trying to finish it. So this is the Rad Plaid Cowl from Andrea Mowry. And I don't know if it's coming across on camera, but this is a color work. Is it mosaic? I think it's technically mosaic color work. It's a very basic little like kind of boxy pattern. If you can't see all three of the yarns in here, I will show them individually, but here they are. So I have a fluff, I have this is, I believe, ampersand fibers from Jessica at, what is her, La Mercerie. I got this a couple years ago and it was like her first yarn that she started marketing. So it's kind of like a woolly wool. I think it's a Corriedale. And then this one is my hand spun. So this is my project where at least for one of my WIPs at all times, I want to be knitting with my hand spun. And this is very early Victoria hand spun here. As you can tell, there's like not really a lot of variation in the colors, and that may have been what held me up from finishing this project for so long, because from afar this looks really boring, and to be honest, like this pattern is a little bit boring because it's the same thing all the way through. It's a cowl. It'll be an infinity cowl, so I'll like, you know, close this up eventually and it'll be a circle, but like a slightly twisted circle. And it's taking forever. Now, I know that I've mentioned that I really like, you know, yarn patterns that are very like repetitive and I can do them on autopilot. The thing with this one though, as you can probably even kind of tell, is like the 3 yarns really love to stick to each other because of that like fluffy stuff one and the more toothy base color that I have here. So they just love to stick to each other and it's kind of a pain in the butt to unstick them and, you know, keep knitting with a good groove. So this is kind of, it's a little wrinkly, I'm sorry, but I was all the way down here for the longest time and I could not get myself to finish this, like work on it. But I started putting a progress marker where I was the last time obviously I told you I was down here like around Christmas of last year. And so I was slowly putting some rows in, but I wasn't seeing progress because the pattern doesn't change. So it's hard to know, like when you're in this middle section, like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to be over? I found that putting a progress marker really helped me to be like, oh yeah, I am making progress on this. And especially as it started to grow from this point up, and especially for these kinds of scarves or cowls, I guess, where you really want to knit to a certain length. I just measured, you know, whatever this length was and realized that I needed like maybe 7 or 6 more inches, which I'm very close to right now, it looks like. So I might be casting this off pretty soon and I'm really happy with where it's going. Again, very hard to tell that there is a fading color in the background from that hand spun. It kind of goes from like a berry to a brown to a yellow, which you can really only see in like the very center there right now, but it's very subtle. And when I first started it, I wasn't sold on this color combo, and I'm still not quite. I don't think it was the exact perfect yarn choice color-wise for this pattern, but I have found that I am really drawn to browns and things that are like more basic that go with more things. If I'm wearing like a super bright outfit or something, I want something a little bit more subdued for like my accessory. So I think I will get a lot of use out of this, or I will gift it. But this is my project where I'm using my hand spun, so that is what's bringing me the most amount of joy from making this pattern. And it will hopefully maybe be my 3rd finished object for March. Now, like I said, there was like 25, 26 WIPs at the beginning of the year, and I don't technically have to do 3 every time. The goal is 2. So I've completed the goal for the year, or for the month rather. And I'm also probably going to get into a phase where I've finished the projects that are like summery or that I can make during the summer months. Like I'm saving a lot of my like spring tees for completing right now, and I'm saving a lot of my socks for summer when I don't want to be working on a 100% wool Icelandic wool sweater. But I do have an Icelandic wool sweater on my WIP list, and so I will start trying to plan those out a little better so that I'm working on them when the season is right or about to turn, so that I can wear it right away. So all that to say that like I'm kind of getting to a place where some of my WIPs are going to be put aside until the right time to work on them. Like that big chunky sweater that I was in last week. Very glad I got that done when I did, because I was able to wear it. But now it's got to go away for a couple months while we have summer here. So I'm just trying to be conscious of that, especially if it does have like a fluff in it. that I'm not going to want to be working on that particular project in spring and summer when it's hot out. So we still got some time. I'm hoping to finish this one up so that I can get that off my plate and perhaps into a Christmas gift pile or put it away for the next season. But I did just want to mention that because I feel like it's hard to work on something when it's not the right season, at least for me, and that's kind of how I ended up in this situation with a ton of WIPs. So I'm not trying to go against the grain of what I want to work on. So the last thing I have to show you is a crochet project. Now this is a very, very bright blanket, and I don't know if I'm gonna have the screen space to show you all of it, but this is another, I know you're probably gonna kill me because I always talk about granny square, granny stitch blankets. This is another one. It's a scrappy granny stitch blanket, except this one, if you notice, is going across here, not from the center out like I normally do with like a typical granny square blanket. And so obviously it's super yellow at the top here, yellows, greens, ochres, and then you fade into some pinks and oranges, which is exactly like what I was trying to show you with my my sock inspo that I had recently. So you go from yellow to like orangey pinky colors, and now I have just started the like purpley sunset kind of colors. So this is where I'm planning on ending it, like with a purple feature. And I think that would look really nice, like as you can kind of see from it being on the chair here. Like I really like that fade. I also really like yellow, so I was very I did a big yellow section. So the yellow is kind of like the biggest prominent color here, and I just want to match and balance that out with a bit more purple, like dark purpley plum colors on this side. So that is the plan, and there's plenty of like little blues and things mixed in here. But yeah, so I have been making a lot of progress on this blanket. I would say I was back, you know, in very much in the orange sections, and I put on quite a few rows to fade to the purples. And the reason that I stopped is that now one of my WIPs, my summer tees, like I talked about, is like a purpley Easter egg kind of purple color, and I want to add a stripe of that into this blanket. So I kind of got to finish that first, the tee. So that will be probably the next thing that I focus on after I finish my new WIP of the tee, or we'll see how things go. I might go completely out of order, but I'm very happy with what I've managed to accomplish so far this year and this spring. I'm super happy with my flower child top, and I cannot wait to wear this more often and throughout the spring. And yeah, I guess that's mostly it. Although I do have one WIP with spinning to show you, actually. Let me grab that over here. So this is my first single of a shocker 2-ply that I'm working on. Here's a little bit of the yarn itself. Obviously there's a lot of blue in this bobbin, but there's actually quite a bit of greens and white mixed into the braid itself. So hopefully you're getting some good, beautiful colors. Is it focusing? Can it focus, please? Not on me. There you go. Obviously spinning this on my Fantasia, Kromsky Fantasia wheel, and it is another, like, there's no name for the color, but it's another braid from Rusty Spur Ranch, which I got a couple years ago at Northwest Fiber Fest, I believe. It is Rambouillet, 4-ounce braid, and I just split it in half. Very typical for me. And I'm spinning up the second single right now, so that should be done and completed into a skein of yarn by the time we meet next as well. But yeah, I think that's what's been going on. Sorry this was a little bit more chatty, but I'm very glad that we caught up with everything that I've been working on, and I hope that you have been having a wonderful beginning of spring wherever you are, if you are at the beginning of spring in the Northern Hemisphere. And yeah, I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining. If you like this video and you want updates from me, please subscribe and hit that little bell button. I have a lot of projects, like half-done videos for coming out soon. Lots of other random little projects going on, but very excited for spring and summer here in the Pacific Northwest, and I hope that you are having a great time. I hope you've caught up on some of your projects as well, and I hope I've inspired you to make something new maybe. So I will talk to you next time. Thanks again for joining me. Bye.